Hello guys, in this video we are going to discuss how you are going to write your answer like a topper when it comes to mains, right? So here I am taking references of my toppers, my mentees. This year rank 27 Vikas, okay? And we will also be looking at 39th rank Rohin, and last year 41st rank Sachin, and this year 53rd rank Kiran, and also 77th rank last year, Neelesh, and 89th rank this year, Sonali. So you can see all their testimonials and all their podcast. So in fact, I will attach their podcast also below this video with me, and their testimonials and everything. So what we have done for them and how they have approached this exam and what helped them to come in the top 100, right? So you can see they are in the top 100. I have taken only those names, six names, they came in top 100, whether it is 27, 39, 53rd, and 41st, 89, 77. So their framework, what you can see from that podcast, whatever they have discussed, whatever they have done, how we have guided them, all those is what actually I'm going to consolidate in this video. So don't waste your time. I'll try to cover it in maximum 30 minutes. You also don't want to waste your time. You can start writing down the important points, and you can start implementing whatever we discuss also, because this is going to be worth, if you're spending this time here, it is going to be very much useful for you. So guys, one most important point that we need to discuss here is the biggest myth when it comes to UPSC. See, one of the biggest myth when it comes to UPSC preparation is that, people believe that toppers know something that the ordinary aspirant don't, right? So these people, these students that I have discussed, the top 100. So you think that they did something extraordinary. Of course, they did something extraordinary also. For example, if I talk about Sachin have written, you can't even believe that he have written, you know, 5,000 answers. So that is extraordinary. Yeah, there is some issue here. Just give me 1 minute. So when I say Sachin have written 5,000 answers, you can watch the podcast and then you understand. So that's something extraordinary. Now Kiran, 53rd rank, he have written 1,000 answers after his prelims. That is also extraordinary. So they have done something extraordinary. It doesn't mean that they possess something extra or anything like that. That's the biggest myth. That's actually not true. See, most of the aspirants, if you see, they read the same books, they read the same PDF, and most aspirants study the same current affairs which is available. And PYQs, it is the same. And these are questions which has been asked by UPSC. So everyone is following the same. But when the result come, some of them score, 110 plus, right? So some of them score 110 plus, some will score 115 plus, some will score 120 plus, some even score 130 plus, and some will score 80 also. Now the question is why? Why? If you ask this, the answer for me, it is actually very simple. The top performers, these top students that I've, because I've seen them from the way they evolved from scoring low to the highest also. Though they not just possess their knowledge is there with everyone. They know how to package that knowledge, how to showcase that knowledge, how to present that knowledge, because knowing everything is different, presenting that is also different, right? You may be knowing less, but if you can present that in a very well structured manner, you get marked, because UPSC is not rewarding your knowledge. UPSC is rewarding what you present in the paper in that 3 hours of time. So they know how to convert the information into marks. You might have that information, you might have the knowledge, maybe much more than that these guys have, but still you're not able to present it and you're not able to package it in a very well way. See, this is the same thing, right? Any case, it is the same thing. Even in advertisement also, you might be giving the best of the service, but if you cannot package it in a better way, then people won't even come to know that you exist also, right? That's the same case with UPSC. You might be knowing much better, but if you cannot give it in a better package, in a better presentation, UPSC don't know who are you and whether you have this knowledge and all those, right? So today, what I want to do is I'll decode the hidden architecture behind the high scoring UPSC answers, and whatever my mentees have done, I'll tell you that whatever they have discussed in the podcast also. And after this, if you wish to, you can watch all the podcasts which I'll share with you. And it's not theory, it's not motivation. I'm going to talk about actual answer writing practice that actually work. Okay. Now, why topper copies matter? See, many students, you'll see, I've seen they download the topper copies, right? And they try to read them, get inspired from that, and move on. But what is the use with that? The purpose of topper copy is not just to read or not just for inspiration. The purpose is like we need to do reverse engineering. Right, this is what I also tell my mentees to do. If you're doing it, then it is not for time pass. You do the reverse engineering. So identify what they have done, why did this introduction work, right? How they have written the introduction. Now, how you are going to do accordingly, right? Why they have used a particular heading and how you're going to use it. What kind of examples they have given. So that's what I mean by reverse engineering. What kind of diagrams they have drawn, and why did the examiner reward this answer? So you try to do the reverse engineering, and until you are not asking these questions when you are reading the topper copy, then the topper copy just remain the photographs for you, something like you can keep it, to get that motivation only. But once you start asking these questions, in fact, then that becomes classrooms, then that becomes knowledge source. And if you do reverse engineering from that, that is when this is going to be the best. Okay. So let's start with the introduction, the one which actually create, the first impression. See, for example, uh, let's talk about one example. If you get a question on cyclone, right? Most of the students begin an answer maybe like cyclones are intense low pressure system that develop over warm ocean current. There is nothing wrong, right? That's correct only. There is nothing memorable. Now imagine a different introduction, right? You can say nearly 86% of cyclone affecting India originate in the Bay of Bengal, while only small portion or proportion originate in Arabian Sea. Now here, the attention is created immediately. So the introduction is basically to create that first impression. So here the attention is created. Now the examiner becomes curious. The introduction actually is data driven. The first one, it's merely the definition, but here it is data driven. You have talked about 80 to 86%. So there is a data, right? That answer actually begins with authority. And there is a difference, right? So top performers, they just don't merely introduce, they create that impact. They create that first impression. And that first impression is going to reward you. That makes the examiner curious to read rest. Now that how you're going to create that first impression, I'll discuss that. I'll give you the method also to create the first impression in the introduction. See, what all things you can do. A good introduction basically should achieve one objective. It should make the examiner curious. It should make the examiner continue reading, right? And for this purpose, you can use what data. Just one example which I have given to you. You are specifically saying 86% or this numbers, or you can use any reports, or you can give a context. So it can be a data, it can be reports, or you can even start with, if it is polity, you can start with constitution, constitutional provisions, or you can use a historical context you can use, or just like before I have given a definition you can start with, or you can even start with an important judgment on that particular topic which has been asked, or any contemporary development you can start with, or you can start with a map or a diagram. So these are the ways in which you can actually give a strong introduction which can make an impact. Now there is a framework. I'll give you so these are the ways, right? So you can use data, definition, history, current affairs, articles, constitution, reports, judgments, etc. Now this framework that even during my, when I used to prepare, there's a famous framework that everyone is talking about. Uh, you know, this is a simple framework to remember the introduction sources. You can have the graph, right? Or you can have the data, or you can have the definition, or you can have history, right? And the context. And then you can give the current affairs, you can give the articles, you can give ranking, or, any reports, or you can give a judgment. So whenever you are unable to think of an introduction, just start with this framework. Within seconds, you'll find suitable entry point. Any of this you will get. As I told you, if you are writing a 15 marker, rather than collecting 15 random points, you divide in 5 dimension, right? 5 dimension is easy for you, automatically will come to you. And 3 points on each dimension will give you 15 points for 15 marker. This is going to be very easy for you. Similarly, introduction also you can fit in this context which I have given to you, right? Now, second thing is how you're going to apply this. See, what you can do is you can use the language of the question. In fact, one of the most underrated answer writing technique, the way you use the language of the question. See, most students, they write headings in their own language, right? But what I've seen is, what worked for this is what I have told them, and they started changing that also, and that's rewarded. For example, if you look at Kiran, he improved 80 marks from last year to this year in mains. So one significant change that he have done is he followed the question language in the headings in the introduction, right? So you normally write headings in your own language, but what changes that we did and what we find it is working, otherwise how that such kind of jump you're getting. And most of the students, if you see, that's visible in our mentees case. So they use the language from the question itself. For example, suppose UPSC is asking, why is the Bay of Bengal more prone to cyclone than Arabian Sea? So instead of writing the causes, what you can do is you can write reason why the Bay of Bengal is more prone to cyclone. That means you are using the question language directly. So see what happens here. You can immediately notice, right? The examiner now immediately knows that this section directly answer the question, right? And the more visible the answer becomes, the easier evaluation is going to be. And the examiner's job is also reducing. He don't want to put extra effort. So directly he's getting the answer, and you're indicating that this is where the answer is. He don't want to search in the entire paper for the answers. So the most relevant point he already got, you conveyed it rightly also. So you are reducing his job, and that means it's an examiner friendly answer that will also be very much rewarding. So one thumb rule that you can follow is use the question language in your answer. That directly help him to understand that this is a most important point. Then, as I told you, dimension. So this direct answering, that is easier evaluation, right? Now, okay. Now this is always I tell when it comes to answer writing. Why you run out of points? Because you are not dividing into dimension. Many students struggle because they think horizontally. So the top performers, what I advise my mentees and what they followed, that they think vertically. For example, UPSC is asking, let's say, impact of climate change. Okay, so the impact of climate change is the question. Now, average student start writing about agriculture, 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 right? So they keep writing within one dimension, but what the top performer will do. So let's say this is 15 marker. Now, if I am trying to find 15 points, random points, thinking it's going to take a lot of time, writing is going to take a lot of time. I cannot complete this in 11, 12 minutes. Instead, for immediately, I think about 5 different dimensions. Forget about the points. Points will automatically come to me. 5 different dimensions. One could be agriculture. The other could be related to coastal areas. The other could be related to what can happen with biodiversity. And the other could be related to livelihoods, right? And then other could be related to public health. So I just created my 5 dimension. Now, what I need is just 2, 3 points on each. It will naturally and automatically come. What is the just 2 points on agriculture, 2 points on coastal, 2 points on biodiversity, how it is going to affect, 2 points on 2, 3 points on livelihood. Now the answer looks richer, the answer look cleaner, and in seconds you are getting 15 points, and it's just a matter of writing that you can do in 11, 12 minutes easily. It's a more mature answer because you covered all the possible dimension. It's a more analytical answer, and it's a complete answer. So this is how it has to be done, right? So, whenever you face a question, always in UPSC, first thing that you need to ask yourself is, what are the dimension? right? What are the different dimensions? You should not ask, what do I know about this? What are the different dimensions which come in this? Then just fit into that dimension, whatever, then automatically points will come. If you start asking, what do I know about this question? Then I don't have 15 points. But what are the dimensions this question or this topic is covered? 5 dimension. Then I know 2, 3 points on each. That is enough to get you the best answer, the best analytical answer, right? So this is going to be your approach. See, again, you can write that in headings, and every heading should be supported also. So these are the dimension, for example, that question, right? So you should be always asking, what are the dimensions? Okay. Now here, see, again, every heading should be supported. So first you talk about a heading, underline and write, and then move to the next heading. If subheading is there, that also you can give, right? So you will make it like a chain. This is what I told to my mentees. This is what they have replicated, and that's what I'm telling you. These are given free of cost also, right? So it should look like a chain. And what could be the chain? You will start with a heading, right? And then there will be an argument in that. So this is what that flow that I'm talking about, right? So you will start with a major heading, and then you raise that argument in that heading, which is related to that. And to support that, you will give evidence, right? And you will give examples for that. And then in that heading also, as it is different dimension, you need a mini conclusion in that, right? So this is how it has to be. So every heading, we need to have this, a flow. For example, let's talk about, is there any question? Food security example, right? Okay, so let's talk about this example. We have question on food availability or food security. So you can have an argument, right? India has significantly improved its food availability. So you gave the argument, right? Now you can enhance that, or you can give evidence to that. You can give example. Evidence means you will say record food grain production and everything. You can talk about green revolution and all those stories. So you record food grain production. That's the evidence. And then you need to give example in terms of data. India's among, then you give data. India's among world's largest producers of rice and wheat. Or give example, food grain stocks and milk production, So you can see examiner is seeing your heading, examiner is seeing your argument, examiner is seeing your evidence, examiner is seeing your example with data. So he's convinced because the examiner is seeing the proof that is there in your answer, right? It's not merely statement. And then a mini conclusion related to that. Perfect. So see, that is why I always talk about there is this argument. Argument evidence model. Why this model work is because it's not naked statements. You're not just giving a argument, or you're not just giving a statement, right? You're always supporting that argument. For example, you have written, India strengthening its federalism, or India strengthening federalism. So that's your argument. Then you will support, right? When you support that, it shows that depth, it increases the credibility, and it shows that maturity. Now, for example, how you're going to support in this case India strengthening federalism, you will have to tell how, and you will have to support that, right? So for example, you can mention GST Council, you can talk about Finance Commission, you can talk about Niti Aayog, you can talk about Interstate Council, etc. So you have given the evidence. Now that argument that you have given, that's going to be supported, and that's going to be more credible also, and that will be rewarded. Fine. So that's a very important area that you need to focus. Now, examples, right? These are mark multipliers. So argument is there that will convince you. See, many students stop writing after the arguments. You make an argument, you make a statement. But what my toppers will do is they go a step further, right? They give evidence. Of course, I discussed that. And then give example that should be supported with data. So you are giving the argument that should convince the examiner, right? It's not only about the convincing examiner, it also should be about proof. You have to prove also. So if argument is going to convince the examiner, argument convince, but example proof. So whenever possible, wherever possible, support every major point through some examples. It could be a scheme, right? You can write about a scheme. You can talk about any policy scheme, whatever. You can give report, right? It can be a report. It can be a judgment that is going to be very valid. It can be any committee recommendations or whatever, or it can be any, if nothing, then real life example. Simple. This is how you will be proving your argument, right? What are the high value sources? See, for example, as I told you, example proofs, right? Now, the reason is when you're giving data that create authority, that create authenticity. A statement is always good, but statistics is better, right? You can merely make a statement, but if you can give statistics, that makes it even better. So suppose you write food security have improved. Good, well enough, but everyone will write that. But if you are adding to that, that NFSA covers nearly 2/3 of India population, suddenly you're bringing in data and that shows that authority. So your answer now looks like more credible, and that shows that authority also. So the examiner trusts the answer more where the statistics is there. So data create credibility. Yes, you can simply say food security have improved, but when you're saying this is covered 2/3 of the population, that's data that create authority. Now, this already I've discussed, data create authority. Now, what are the data sources? It can be census, it can be NFHS, it can be NCRB, it can be economic survey. That's it. Okay. Okay. I'll talk about one pager notes. See, if you are writing notes, right? If you are keep writing everything that you have, then that is not going to help the purpose. That is a revision. That's the biggest, difference between a average student, average aspirant, and a topper. The way they make the notes, the purpose of making notes, everything else is available as PDF and the textbooks. Why you're making notes, right? It should be for revision. It should help you to revise, right? But if you are, making for topic 5 page, 10 page, 30 page, 40 page, 50 page, then it is impossible to revise. What the toppers will do, what top performers will do, what I told them, what I advise them, how I mentor them is, it is for revision. So one topic, 1 page, not beyond that. One topic, even in optional also, you have one topic, you might have 5, 6, 7, 10 pages, which is going on in your original note or textbook. But one topic, I just need 100, 150 words, 1 page, 10 bullet points. That's it. Everything should be clearly visible, right? For example, let me give you one example, federalism. Right, so here what all things should be there? Constitutional provision first, okay, and then committees, just one example, and then case laws, and then cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, challenges of federalism, reforms, all these you can write in one line, all important areas, and then the important developments, the current affairs, right? So if you can write all these in just 1 page, now the revision is going to become easy. Answer writing also going to become easy because you can recollect faster, right? So 1 page notes, one topic, 1 page. This is what you want to do. So this is what the example that I have discussed, definitions, article, cases, challenges, etc. So you have to prepare notes for writing, for retention and everything. It's a very important point. Do not make notes just for reading. Make notes for retention, make notes for revision, make notes for writing, right? You need to ask yourself, if UPSC asks a question tomorrow, can these notes directly become my answer? If yes, you are doing right. If not, then you are incomplete. No need to do that, right? Next point that I want to cover. Yeah, think visually. This is again have to be reflected in your answer also. Visual thinking. See, toppers. This is what again I advise my mentees, and this is what they do. Whenever possible, wherever possible, think of flowcharts if you can draw. Mind maps, timelines, tables. If there is a comparative analysis, we need a table, right? Maps, cause and effect diagrams, block diagrams. It has to be there in your answer, right? So when you're doing this, actually that visual effect is so high and conveys so much meaning that a paragraph can convey. At the same time, that increase a better, that shows a better presentation clarity, and that when you're doing during your revision also, that improve your retention power. And if you're doing that in the paper, that definitely attract examiners attention. So you think visually. When you practice also, try to make that diagrams. Naturally it will come in your answers also, and that helps the examiner that reward you with good mark. Okay, so these are the benefits of thinking visually. Better recall, better presentation, and help the examiner also to evaluate. Right. Now again, you don't need artistic talent when I say map or diagram or anything. You just need speed, right? So when I'm talking about geography or disaster management, a rough India map, if you can draw and explain, right, that can add enormous value. A rough map, you can just take 8 seconds and you can draw that, right? And you can practice, that can improve also. So whenever we write international relation, a rough, where those areas which are involved, you can show. When you're talking about environment, disaster management, when you're talking about geography questions, because visual, you know, that creates separation from the crowd. Very few people will do that. If you do that, because examiner is evaluating so many papers, seeing different types, right? And majority, like, it will go monotonous. But if you can bring in some difference, that's what adding that 1 mark, 2 mark, 0.5 mark extra. And 20 questions each in all of these papers, if you can get that 10 mark extra, that eventually help 50, 60 mark extra in GS alone. Same thing if you do in optional also, that makes around 80, 90 marks extra that you're getting just because of the few changes that you make in your presentation only. So I've already discussed about evidence-based answers. So the support claim must be there. That is again will be the bigger difference between a topper copy and average answer. So your answer need to be evidence rich. So any argument that you're making, you need to have that supporting claim with evidence, with example. Now, from where the evidence is coming, I've already given you the sources. It can be Crime Records Bureau. It's not necessary that you need to read entire things, but for specific cases, you might have read examples. That if you can recollect, that's fine. We have regular fit-in examples for majority of the case, crime against women, right? Crime against the lower caste, and all those we have general examples. That's what I mean by it's not that you need to completely follow that. Or NFHS related to food security. We have general regular example, or Niti Aayog, Sustainable Development Goals. You can add UNDP examples, right? WHO reports, right? Economic survey, most important. You are anyway covering for prelims. Census, important areas, right? Sex ratio, maternal mortality rate, and all those, right? Committees, judgments, all those. Whenever possible, wherever possible, support your answer with things which you remember from this, because we have things ready-made from these where you can fit in different areas, because different dimensions anyway will come in different questions. So we have common examples, guys. Now again, these are the sources which I've told you. Next is previous year questions. These are the gold mines. Why? Because that will give you the themes, that will help you to understand the demand, that will help you to understand the dimensions and the depth which is required. Many students use PYQs just for testing, but it is to be used for learning. It is to be used for understanding UPSC mindset. This is the key to open that mind, what they are expecting, what is their demand, what depth you need to go, what are the important themes from which they're asking question, what are the macro themes, what are the micro themes, what are the dimensions which I have to cover in this, right? What are the recurring areas? They definitely won't repeat word to word, but themes are repeating. What is the expected depth in that particular question? So, see, the best answer writing journey that always start with PYQs. I always tell my mentees start with PYQs. It's not with the topper copies. It's not with the coaching material questions and all those which are given. First, write PYQs yourself, then compare with others topper copy if you want to. If you are a mentor, if you have a mentor who can guide you, go with him. He'll take care of it. He or she will take care of it. Right? So that's how you should be starting with. And most importantly, guys, write, compare, improve. Okay, I told this already. Now, most important, identify your gaps. We are not complete, right? So toppers, they understand they do the work, they make mistakes and they improve. Their mentor will help them, right? Their teacher will help them. And they are willing to improve also. So this is where the real growth happens. So there is no point in comparing marks or anything. You compare the gaps. So you have written an answer. Now, answer I told you it should be based on dimension. So you ask yourself, what I'm missing? Did I miss any dimension here? Missing dimension or missing example? Or am I missing evidence? So your answer should have the core argument, right? For each dimension, core argument, evidence, examples, mini conclusion also for each dimension. Are you missing the keywords? For example, when we talk about ethics vocabulary. Or am I missing the demand of the examiner? Then everything is gone. So that diagnosis, that is very important, that create the improvement. So this is the cycle. You write, get it evaluated with your mentor. That's why a mentor is very important. I've evaluated thousands of papers and even Sachin, 41st rank, so many, Kiran, so many papers. They're also writing, so we cannot say we cannot write. Now, improve after that, getting the feedback, and then rewrite, go one step further. One step further every day. If you can make 1% improvement every day, even if you take simple calculation, one, not compounding. Compounding is what actually the calculation. Then 100% in 100 day, you doubled your capacity, right? So the toppers, they just don't answer the question. They just write, they get the feedback, they improve upon that. Normally, students just write the topic and end of it. Toppers, they won't do that. So I hope you understood the difference. Both are not the same. So for example, suppose UPSC is asking a question, right? For example, the methods used to compute unemployment. So many students will talk about Make in India, Skill India, MGNREGA. That's wrong. What are these? These are various schemes to create employment. The question is asking methods of measurement. So your answer should involve like PLFS, worker population ratio, labor force participation ratio. This is what I mean by understanding the demand of the examiner, right? That demand determines your answer. So here the demand is that. So the question actually should decide your answer. So decoding the question is very important, not your knowledge. You might be knowing so much about unemployment, but what is asked in the question, that's what more important, right? So in this case, that's what you need to write. So what a topper will do, understand the demand. That's the most important point. After understanding the demand, you'll find the dimensions. And for dimensions, you will find the points. And you will give the argument, you will give the evidence, you will give the example, then you will conclude. This is how you will write. So what is the first step? Understand the demand. This is the first and foremost and most important step when you're writing the answer. Then naturally, the dimensions will come. Think of what all dimensions. Once you get dimensions, 3 points in each dimension is easy. And then you need to use the question keyword, right? That's what language of the question. You can use the question keyword that directly will guide the examiner to the answer, and you build the argument, you give the supportive evidence, you give examples, you draw the diagrams, block diagram or flow chart or maps or whatever, and you provide towards the end looking forward or a positive way forward, and then you conclude effectively. This is how your answer should look like from here onwards, whether you are learning from me or you are learning yourself or from any other mentor. This has to be the structure. Understand the demand, proper structure, evidence, presentation, diagrams, and everything. Right? So, guys, a difference between a 90 marker. I have seen Sachin and Kiran also made these 90 mark. For example, Kiran last attempt, he got 90s also. This attempt, he scored in 120s also. And he made an improvement of 80 marks overall in GS. You just watch Kiran's podcast. You'll get a lot of value from that. I'll attach that below this. His sixth attempt also, because he had no other choice now. When we have choice, that's when we become lazy also. That's why he wrote answers. He was with Sachin during the last UPSC interview. They were together. Sachin got 41st rank. Kiran couldn't clear. Sachin told that Sachin was attending our sessions and mentorship program and everything. That's why Kiran came to us. And next year, sixth attempt, worked like anything. We together cracked it. So the difference between a 90 mark and 120 mark, what is that? Now you understood. It's not just about knowledge. We have much more than the knowledge. Structure is important. The presentation is important. If you are not giving properly, examiner don't know that you have so much knowledge. You have to give evidence for the arguments you are making. That shows that credibility. You have to show that you can think in different dimension for the same thing. That shows your analytical skill, right? And you have to give that proper answer architecture. Good news is that, these are skills. Now, when I say these are skills, means these can be learned. Even if you're not doing it rightly now, you can learn that with the help of a mentor, with the help of me, or you yourself if you put more effort, right? So the purpose of studying or having a mentor or studying from topper copies, not to copy the toppers. The purpose is to understand how they think, how we guide. Because once you understand the hidden architecture that is behind the best answers, your own answers begin improve automatically, right? So understand that and improve your preparation, and that's when your knowledge, your preparation, that will convert into marks. Only if it convert into marks, you'll be there in the list. So I hope all the best for all of you. I hope to see you all of you in list also. So if you are looking for any classes or mentorship program or anything from our side, get in touch with us. This is our office contact details: 000360 civils 360. So see you there.